Hey, good morning, Ted. Coming up today, prosecutors plan to call a ballistics expert and crime scene analyst, something that Randolph's defense team is prepared for.
We have our own experts, and we have a crime scene expert who was a longtime Metro employee. We have another really fabulous use of force expert, Thomas Randolph, in our opinion's a victim.
During yesterday's testimony, prosecutors continued highlighting the evidence at the crime scene on May 8, 2008, when Sharon Randolph was murdered, as well as the hitman prosecutors say was hired by the defendant to do it, including playing the dramatic 911 call. Jurors also leaned in as a revealing walkthrough video was played inside the courtroom where the defendant describes what he says happened after he arrived home with his wife that night.
And I stopped right about here at the door. I said, Sharon. And I just had to push her over. And she came over, and it was the grossest thing I had ever seen in my life.
One of the lead detectives, Cliff Mogg, testified for most of Tuesday, detailing how, in his opinion, the evidence at the crime scene did not correlate with what the defendant claimed happened in that walkthrough video. At the end of his testimony, a couple of jurors had questions.
At any point during your interview or walkthrough or contact with Mr. Randolph, did you see him crying or very emotional about what had happened on the evening of May 8th?
No.
Were the drawers dusted for fingerprints?
That's something I can't answer.
In crime scene photos, Detective Mogg testified that Randolph's home did not appear ransacked as he would have expected if a burglar was caught in the act. Randolph's defense team says these juror questions, though, are a good thing.
Some of the questions I thought were very good, and a lot of the questions that weren't asked, it wasn't because they weren't good questions, it's because other witnesses are going to be able to answer them that are coming.
And Ted, prosecutors say that they could wrap their case-in-chief up by the end of this week. For now, though, I'll send it back to you.
All right, thanks to Chanley Painter. She'll be with us throughout the day here on Court TV as this case continues to roll on. Let's bring in criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Marie Pereira. She's in New York. And Marie, the juror question was interesting. Did he show any emotion? Because that's one thing that you take away from watching him do the recreation. He's very into it. He's very excited to tell investigators what happened in a way that most people would think, that maybe wouldn't be the way I would react. But as a defense attorney, you know that everybody is different, are they not? And maybe we shouldn't look too far into that.
You know what? The jurors are going to look at demeanor during the crime, before the crime, after the crime, and even at the table during the trial. And his demeanor doesn't work in his favor because the way he describes the shooting, the way he describes his wife laying on the floor, and how he murdered another man, self-defense or not, it seemed rather casual. It seems like he has an indifference for life. And it's showing at the table, it shows in the video where he reenacted the thing. It was almost like it was a movie to him. You just killed someone, self-defense claim or not. Can you show some remorse and emotion that you took a life, even if it was accidentally or in self-defense? This guy shows that he's heartless. Not to say that he is, but demeanor is everything. And yes, to answer your question, jurors do look at that, and it's not working for him at all.
Part of the walkthrough video, I mean, they took it back a couple days later, same time in the evening. He has a lot of detail and then also a lot of emotion as he's going through it. Let's take a little listen and watch to the way that he's demonstrating to investigators what he claims happened.
He was doing something, going for something down in here. And as we got up in here, and he kind of rushed up on me a little bit, and that's when I just pushed him, boom, 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 and he started going out toward the shed. I don't know how many times I shot him, but I just kept right on going. Boom, boom, boom. And he's just laying there. Just laying there. And I look back because then I'm trying to make sure everything's cool.
The way he's, then I look back, making sure everything's cool. He's got a whole thing where it's, you know, all right, take two, cut. It's almost like he's acting, and that, I think, will hurt him at the end of the day. But his lawyers acknowledged in opening statements, our guy's a bit of a wingnut. Our guy is abrasive, and you're going to pick up on that. How do you handle a guy that is trying to run the defense from the table next to you as the defense attorney? They're leaning into it. Is that the smart way to go, to acknowledge that, yes, jurors, you're going to pick up on some eccentricities with this guy, that he's a bit off?
I think it's good strategy that you're right. They're all leaning into it because they expect that the jurors are going to pick up on it. And they also expect that the prosecutor is going to pick up on it and use it against him. So they're preempting the sting of his awkwardness and his whole general demeanor and appearance and his lack of ability to show any remorse for what happened. And they're saying, you know what, he's not such a nice guy. Maybe he cheated on his wife. Maybe physically he looks kind of creepy, and his attitude towards the whole thing seems uncaring, but that's not what we're here for. We're here to decide whether or not he intentionally murdered two people, and if he deserves, after the end of the day, to be in jail, in prison for the rest of his life. So yes, they brought it out so they take the sting away when the prosecutors pounce on his creepiness. They admit he is a creep. We're not here for that, though.
So this jury will not, theoretically, know about the other wives, that this is wife number 6 and 4 of them are dead, and he's suspected in the deaths of 3 of them. Without that, this is a much different case. I mean, there's a chance this guy either walks or there's a hung jury here. This is not an open and shut case. When you pull that major component out of the equation, what's your overall take on the Nevada Supreme Court's decision to give him another shot? Was that the right decision? And was it the wrong decision for that trial court to allow the prior bad act witness in?
I think it was the wrong decision from the outset for the trial court to allow that overly prejudicial evidence to come in against him, because at the end of the day, look at the outcome. On appeal, a death penalty case is reversed, and now we're here almost 2 decades later trying to piece together a very difficult case for the prosecution. They should have never let it in, and now it's an uphill battle. But I think the prosecution is doing a very good job at going through the back doors and bringing in witnesses to testify as to his character during his marriage to this woman. And bringing in friends like the beauty parlor woman she worked with, who testified that the woman was on a boat with him and he purposely, according to the victim, swerved in the water and she almost fell, and her friend said, your life is in danger, you should leave him. So they are bringing in information that is pertinent for the jurors to decide circumstantially whether or not he may have been responsible for this death. That's all they can do, because that other evidence regarding the acquittal and the other wives and the attempts to hire hitmen, it's not allowed, rightly so, because it does violate his rights. You cannot convict someone on the basis of propensity evidence. It's unconstitutional. But I think the prosecutors are doing a good job at showing his character and adding the pieces of circumstantial evidence to let the jurors see what kind of a man he was, his obsession with insurance policies, the cheating, the callousness. Her daughter verified it. Friends say he was pretty much of a horrible husband to her. I think they're doing what they can with what they have. They can't undo the ruling, and I think the ruling was right.
Yeah, they have to play by the rules. Doug Moog was the, or Cliff Moog was the investigator on the stand for a long time yesterday. And part of the state's case is that his story that he told to the 911 operator, then to investigators, and then during his big reenactment, that doesn't fit the physical evidence. Here's a bit of Moog, and then we'll talk about the significance after this.
I saw no bullet impacts in the walls of the hallway. The only cartridge case that I saw was on the floor near this doorway down here leading into the garage, and I believe that's marked with number 3.
Other than that, no cases, no strikes, nothing to indicate any kind of shooting occurred in that hallway?
Nothing that would indicate that a shooting occurred in the hallway based on my familiarization with semi-automatic handguns.
Marie, does it matter, theoretically, let's say we didn't know anything about this guy and we maybe thought he was not guilty. Let's think about his story. He just encounters his dead wife and an intruder who he doesn't even know is the handyman, and then he shoots him and realizes, oh my gosh, it's my friend. The details of where he was when these things happened, does that really matter that much in terms of trajectory? Because it doesn't change the narrative that he walked in, found his dead wife, and found the guy in the house.
It actually does change the narrative, because if he's saying that the guy was the aggressor, the bullets have to show that the guy was the aggressor. And if he's reenacting the scene and he's doing it with such precision and saying, I went boom, 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 as if he was like a major player in a video game, then it should match what he's saying. If he's lying about it, then you ask yourself why. And it goes to his credibility. It goes to maybe even motive. Why lie about how it happened if it really happened that way? Maybe because you were chasing him and he was not the aggressor. So yes, the way the bullets are flying and the trajectory must match his story, because the next thing is, why is he not being truthful in his story, and the crime scene doesn't match what he's actually describing.
Yeah, and you had the 10 minutes between the gunshots from the neighbor and him calling 911, which is also a bit suspect.